Hi, welcome to the Free Will Channel. We've got some Egyptian music playing in the background because Egypt was the land of slaves, right? And it's how a lot of civilizations get created is on the backs of labor, of labor from people who don't receive the full benefit of what they've done, right? Which, I mean, and in some ways, slavery is, is pretty welcomed because that's how we live life. Maybe we sell our body and our mind and our time into a system so we can afford shelter, we can afford a car, and we can afford the foods that we want to eat. And we sell our time to pay for the things that we want, right? But what if this system was actually created to make you give up all of your time for the things that you need and want? And when it has all of your time, it can decide what direction your energy is going. And when your energy is going in a direction of war and struggle and scarcity and poverty and disease, that's where the dark side wins, right? I mean, that's like modern slave masters. They're not sitting on a farm somewhere managing people to harvest their crops or take care of their land. They're in business suits, and they're manipulating trends that keep the masses, the many, the normal people. It keeps them buying and supporting certain things. Even the non-profit organizations, we're talking about incorporated things. And when we're talking about incorporated things, we're talking about, a corpse is a dead body, right? So an incorporation is just it's a body, but it's a dead body because it's not represented by a living being, right? There might be living beings that are benefiting from it, but it's not. It by itself is not living. And when we're dealing with the living, we're dealing in truth. We're dealing in what's happening right now. We're dealing in free will. When we're dealing with an incorporated entity, we're dealing with rules that have been made up in the past that are maybe no longer even pertinent. Or we're dealing with the fear of the future that, what if you're going to do something? We need to be able to make sure we can identify you in every point in time of every place and everywhere you go, and we need to make sure that we know what you're doing. But then who's watching the watchers? Right? Even the non-profit organizations that are incorporated, they can do it as a private entity as well, with all the same benefits, but if they've chosen to be a public domain incorporated business or service provider, they are still the incorporated entity. These incorporated entities are benefiting off of human labor. I have a friend who wants to get into child care and maybe teaching in a preschool or a kindergarten, maybe even first or second grade, because she knows how to read and she knows how to do math and she knows how to talk with little people in a way that they feel respected and that they want to be her buddy, right? One of the incorporated entities has offered her a program that if she works through them, then they will volunteer her as an employee to work with children, right? But I think their compensation is only $12 or $14 an hour because they're in this special program. right, that you've signed up for and you've signed the contract for, and you've jumped through all of the hoops that they require the people that they make money off of to jump through, right? You're going to pee in a bottle, or you're going to you're going to be asked all sorts of questions that might make you feel like a criminal. The thing is so if you're working through them to make these contacts for you, that's you giving up a portion of your time to somebody else who maybe is only offering you a temporary service. Making the connection is great, thank you. But to be constantly profiting off of my labor, that seems like slavery. Because if I own me, if I own myself, and I own the product of my labor, shouldn't I be able to keep what I earn? And if I can't keep that, if somebody came and took 100% of what I've earned, we could call that theft. So at what point can't we? At what point is it no longer theft? What if we lived in a civilization where only good things were supported, or only the things that people wanted was supported, right? And when we work locally, and it's luckily how nature works naturally for everyone everywhere, we can maintain efficiency and accountability and transparency. When we're asking for somebody else to be responsible for us, there's certain things that are going to be asked of us that maybe we don't even want to do. And maybe we could actually recognize an immoral nature to what we're being asked to do. Right? I mean, we have rights. We have rights as human beings. We have the ability of making our choices for us, for ourselves. I mean, somebody somewhere else can't tell you how to live your life better than you can, right? Unless you're incompetent. And if you're incompetent of living life, then that's okay to seek somebody to help you, right? To help you learn the things you need to learn, so that way you can be independent and you can be self-responsible. And that's where freedom is found, is in self-responsibility. But you can't attack others or steal from others and call yourself self-responsible. And that's where the law is going to come in. So, anyway, I wanted to bring up a job. What is a job? What is a job? A job is just an acronym for just over broke. And that's the way an employer is going to try to keep you. Because if you are thriving in life and your friend says, hey, I'm going to XYZ destination of a vacation, you want to go? Well, if you have the money for the plane ticket and the lodging and the food and all the things that you're going to need, you might say yes to that. Right? You might say, wow, I've really always wanted to go there. I'm going to, you don't even have to twist my arm. I'll go. But if you have a job that you have to be back to the next day, and you don't have enough money to pay for the plane fare, and the lodging, and the food, and the, you're going to stay there and you're going to be a good little employee, and you're going to make sure that you show up every day that the boss tells you to. And so a lot of these incorporated nonprofit organizations, they're helping people to get back into jobs instead of teaching them a pathway to entrepreneur self-ownership. And when you are an entrepreneur, when you own your time, you're benefiting 100% off of what you do. And it makes you want to do more, right? And then when you do more and you achieve more and you get to a point where you're pretty comfortable in life, you go, wow, that is something that isn't being taught in school, right? Because our school system has been created by the Rockefeller Foundation, and you can look all this stuff up. Don't believe me. Don't believe me. Recognize anything I say is just an awareness of something to be aware of, to maybe look more into if you don't know about it, or um, or ignore it completely. That's up to you. That's your free will. But we've had influence into some of our public education systems that has made it to where people are more obedient. And let me tell you, they've done a fantastic job of creating obedient people. I mean, really. I mean, I talk with a lot of people, and it's shocking how many people have to do a lot of things, right? They have to get up at 5:30 in the morning so that way they can get to work by 7, right? They have to take their break at 9:30 to 9:45 because that's what somebody somewhere else said. Oh, and then you have to take your lunch from 11:30 to 12. And then and you have to take a break from 1:15 to 1:30 because somebody somewhere said so. And and then we have other mandates that you have to dress a certain way. So, and we're not going to really pay for it, but it is a tax deduction if you own the company, right? Or if you've specified it for work wear, you put your name on it, things like that. Make sure you have a reliable vehicle, because we're not going to hire you if you're going to have to rely on the buses, because what if we need you when the buses aren't running, right? It's not going to work for us. We want to make sure that you have a sufficient vehicle to be able to get to and from work, and it's probably going to be new enough that you need to have a vehicle payment on it. And if you have a vehicle payment on a vehicle, then you need to have full coverage insurance, right? And so you're going to pay insurance, and you're going to pay registration, and you're going to pay for all new clothes, and you're going to pay for a shelter to be able to shower in and store all these new clothes and wash them and everything else, right? And that's only going to cost you, today's price is about $1,500 a month, to have a place that has a washer and dryer, and to have, the things that you want to have, right? But everybody needs their own, so, even though you and your family lived together when you were little, but now that you're big and don't take up really that much more space, you need to be somewhere else, right? Because that's the way this culture has been shaping people to believe that everything about life needs to be very expensive. And you should have a job that takes care of all that, and that way you can put a lot of money into the bank accounts. Because if you put money into the bank accounts, that's a whole another video right there. I mean, look up on YouTube. You can look up, what's it called? The Collapse of the American Dream in Animation. They do a good job of describing our monetary system. And but yeah, every time we put dollars into a bank, it's basically like putting human energy into a jail cell, right? That human energy in the form of a dollar isn't helping your neighbor fix their car, or take care of a bill unexpected bill that came up. It's just sitting in a bank account being used against the fractional reserve lending practices. And every time you feed money into an insurance company, it's going into a bank account because they have so much money they're not spending it, right? And every time your money goes to a landlord in the form of rent, it's going into a bank account that never is likely to be spent. I mean, maybe it'll be spent buying up more apartment complexes so they can make more money, right? Because that's how that works. But what if people came together with their 5 or 10 favorite friends, and they said, you know what, with our income, we could form a trust in our friendships, that we can buy a house that has 10 bedrooms, right? Or we can build one, because we have 10 people working towards building something, right? So we can do a lot. And within just a few years, the investment has been made into your own shelter that provides for a long time. One of my neighbors, he built a castle, because he bought a piece of property way out in the hills, and it's a rough road to get to it, and it was just covered in rocks. And he's like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this, right? What am I going to do with this? It's just rocks. And so he started stacking rocks on top of each other, and sometimes putting some concrete or a mortar or whatever in between them, and well, he built a castle, right? He's got huge walls like going all the way around the castle, and it's like, wow, that's pretty cool, you know. And he has several of his friends living with him, and some of them helped build it, you know. And so they've built their life in a way that they don't have to pay to exist on every level, you know. And now if you use your shower water and your sink water to water a garden, well then, you know, you're growing your own food. And if you punch your own well and you're making your own power, you're able to water a garden and water your land in a way that can create abundance for you, you know, because food does grow on trees. If you've been to the grocery store, you see a lot of food that has grown on trees or plants. And it's like $3 a pound, right? I mean, you know, if you're really hungry, would you rather have $3 in a piece of paper, or would you rather have a nice juicy apple, right? I mean, that's what matters, right? And what matters is, you know, you might be able to even count how many apples your tree grew, right? And you might be able to count the number of seeds in each of those apples. But you can't count the number of apples in each of those seeds. And when we start to realize how exponential growth can happen when we start putting seeds into the ground instead of into the trash, we start to grow locally our economies that grow and produce healthy, happy, peaceful, and abundant communities. But it starts with each of us making our free will choices consciously, rather than compulsively to align with the idols of the culture, broadcasted over the masses using television programming to get you to see and act and spend your money in a certain way. So anyway, there's been a lot of stories about how slavery has ended. And maybe it ended for one group from another, but sometimes it just has built its evil head back into concealed ways. Things that look like one thing, but they're actually building another. Like a Trojan horse. You know, we're doing a service. We're doing a service to the community. Well, you know what a bull does as a service to the cow for the farmer? That's what service looks like when you're dealing with incorporated entities. Thanks for watching. If you like my content, I'm an apocalyptic monk living in the desert. I'm using permaculture principles to heal the land by reducing fire, flood, erosion, drought, and famine. I'm helping individuals through realizing the truth of yoga and meditation and how it brings us into a level of awareness of what we have control over in our body, in our mind, and how we can shape our lives outside of what has been advertised to us as normal. So you can subscribe right here, or you can check out the video that YouTube thinks is great for you right here. Thanks for watching.